World Purple Day today, and World Purple Day is all about awareness of epilepsy. The condition that around 1% of people can live with, we won't say suffer from, but can live with, and it can be very, very debilitating as well. Listen, let's find out more. I always like to defer to experts if there's one here. Gail Hall is here from an organisation called Matthew's Friends, which is talking specifically, Gail, about children who are living with epilepsy, not necessarily suffering from it. Tell us a little bit more about Matthew's Friends.
Well, Matthew's Friends was set up by a lovely lady called Emma, whose son's called Matthew. Now, she tried to get her son on a diet for about 8 years.
Right.
And when she did eventually get him on this ketogenic diet,
yes,
it really, really helped for him.
Okay, let's backtrack just slightly and talk about children with epilepsy can be treated with drugs, but a combination of different drugs. And you know, I've had experience, I know of people who have been treated for epilepsy with a number of different drugs, and it can be quite debilitating. The drugs themselves can have quite an impact on the quality of the life of someone who suffers or who lives with epilepsy.
Yeah, well, fortunately, a lot of children with epilepsy can be treated successfully with drugs. So we're, as an organisation, we're not anti-drugs.
No, absolutely.
But unfortunately, for those with intractable epilepsy, the drugs are not so successful. Once you've tried 1 or 2 drugs, the chances of you finding one that works really goes down.
And the problem, in a way, is that there are a maze of different types of epilepsy and a maze of different types of drugs to tackle those. Tell us a little bit more about that, because it's something that I guess a lot of people don't know. Yeah,
well, people are quite familiar with the older terms grand mal or petit mal for what we now call tonic-clonic seizures and absent seizures, but there's about 40 different seizure types,
which is incredible. I think probably a lot of people aren't aware of that. And of course, to tackle this as early as you can in a child's life can only be beneficial, and because there can be long-term effects of epilepsy as well, can't there?
Well, Emma's son Matthew, if she'd have had access to the diet when she was first looking for it, she could have saved over 12,000 seizures. And Matthew, unfortunately, now is irreversibly brain damaged.
Right.
Now, I also have a son called Matthew who got on the diet quite early on in his epilepsy, and it worked for him. It's brought him back. He's brighter, he's more aware, he's more active.
And that's as a result of having to take less medication, and the wonder that is this ketogenic diet. When we say diet, tell us what we mean by the ketogenic diet. People will be familiar with a diet similar to it that a lot of people have tried, haven't they?
Yeah, it's kind of like Atkins gone mad. It's a very high fat, high protein, low carbohydrate diet.
But this isn't just the case of saying to a mother with a child who has epilepsy, okay, put them on the Atkins diet.
No.
That will solve the problem, because it's a lot more complex than that, isn't it?
The diet has to be very carefully controlled under proper dietetic support. Each diet is individually calculated to the child. There are a few different types of diet coming on the market, as it were, at the moment. We've got the classical ketogenic diet, which has been around for quite a while, but there's also moves in looking at modified Atkins diets and low glycemic index diets, which are also proving helpful.
Okay, let's just talk about this in more of an everyday language. An Atkins type diet is designed to do what? To change what in the body?
It changes the way that the body metabolizes. So instead of running off carbohydrates like you or I do, somebody on a more strict Atkins type diet would be running off the fat and running off the protein.
So that's what you're intaking more of as well, more fats, more protein. So less things like, I mean, I guess the main carbohydrate family really is things like bread, potatoes, pasta, things like that. So all of that is maybe not eliminated completely, but certainly drastically reduced in the diet.
Yes.
Okay. And in the case of Matthew, your son, just tell us the difference that made, because he's 10.
Yeah.
And what difference has it made to him in terms of number of seizures first?
Well, before the diet, it could easily have a dozen seizures a day.
Right. To what kind of severity are we talking?
It'd have sort of, 5-minute seizure, then a break, and then another seizure. He was out of it quite a lot of the time.
Which must be
His
very
eyes
exhausting
were
for a
cloudy.
10-year-old child.
Yeah, it was about sort of 4 or 5 when at this point.
Okay.
And really, I'd lost my little boy.
Yes.
He was. I was called emotive by calling him a drooling zombie, but that's how he was at the time. It was very, very difficult.
And I have to say, having had experience of teenagers who've suffered from severe or have lived with severe epilepsy, the sheer number of drugs that are needed sometimes to control the epilepsy kind of do leave them a little bit kind of devoid. It's almost like they're not there in a way.
Yeah.
So this diet, Matthew went onto the diet how long ago?
So he went onto it when he was 5 or 6. He had about 4 or 5 years on a couple of different forms of the diet.
And how quickly did you see the change, and how drastic was the change?
Well, pretty immediately I saw more awareness, even before we saw better seizure control.
Right.
And it was a gradual process over a number of months before the seizures started coming down.
Okay. Because that's the body, I guess, adjusting to that big change, because obviously any kind of diet change which is that fundamental would take some time to kind of work through. I guess it's like, if you give up smoking, it takes some months for the body to actually forget everything you've taught it in a way. So talk to us now about how Matthew is, and in terms of seizures, how often are we talking now?
Well, he still has the occasional one. Generally, there's a virus or a bug going around. He had one before Christmas and he had one last Tuesday.
Right. So that's a kind of 3-4 month gap then, which is incredible, going from 12 seizures a day down to sort of one every 2 or 3 months, or maybe when he's ill with something else. What's the issue in terms of getting more children onto this diet then at the moment? What's prohibiting that?
Because it takes a lot of calculating. If you're going to put a lot of fat into a child, you want to make sure that it's very carefully calculated out. So the main issue is getting dietetic support and getting a qualified dietitian that knows what they're doing in the diet. And we're, as a charity, we're trying to raise awareness of how effective the diet can be, and trying to get this dietetic support to be more readily available to all children.
So at the moment there is the support out there, but it takes a while to find the dietitian's time available to recognise and to move them, because it's so specific, this particular diet. Tell us a little bit more about Matthew's friends and the work that you do. Obviously it's World Purple Day today, so that's all about epilepsy awareness, and that's only a recent thing, isn't it, World Purple Day? Yeah,
it was started by a young girl called Cassidy in Nova Scotia. Yeah. And she was 9, and she'd suffered from some of the stigma and the fear involved around epilepsy.
Yeah, people often don't know what to do they?
So she wanted to just raise awareness. So a couple of years ago she started the idea of World Purple Day. We came on board last year as a charity, as the UK partner. Yeah. Again, to raise awareness of epilepsy, that the things that people think about with epilepsy, that it's contagious. It's not. It's not a
so there's a lot of myths out there.
There's a lot.
Now
of
listen,
things.
Matthew's friends are involved in the setting up of a centre in Surrey. Tell us about that briefly.
Yeah. Well, we're hoping to set up a centre for on the site for the National Centre for Young People with Epilepsy, right, in Lingfield in Surrey, and that's our big aim, and that's the big thing that we're fundraising for. As always, it's always about raising funds. Absolutely. We want to raise awareness, but we need the money as well. So we want a centre of excellence, so this diet is available, more readily available to whoever needs it.
Absolutely. Gail, we're out of time, but let me just very, very quickly tell you, if you think you can help or you want to know more, maybe you're in a situation where you have a child who is living with epilepsy or someone in the family who's living with epilepsy, get onto their website, because there's a lot of information there as well. It is a support network for families who maybe in the situation where they're waiting for specialist dietitian help. If you can help, get onto the website. It's www.matthewsfriends.org. I'll have all the details on our own website a little bit later on at shine-tv.co.uk. I'll update the blog with all of the details. Gail, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Good luck with the campaign, and well, World Purple Day certainly made an impression on us today on Shine as well.